Hello everyone, this is Jen Espinosa-Goswami joining you for a Facebook Live, totally impromptu on my page, Be Weightless. If you haven't liked my page, please make sure to do so. I just wanted to pop in briefly and talk a little bit about, now that we have Turkey Day behind us and we've had all the turkey and the ham and the mashed potatoes and the sweet potato and the fixins and all the goodness. Take a breath. And now let's move on, right? Maybe you did your Black Friday shopping. Maybe you did Cyber Monday shopping. Maybe Small Business Saturday shopping. Shopping, 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 right? I mean, that's our goal for the next month. But really, what I care about is that it smells like Christmas. Not just outside, where you might be smelling pine trees and snow, but inside your house, where you might be smelling cookies and yummies and goodness and treats. And here is how you can tackle those treats. First of all, as a health coach and as a mom of two girls, I feel it's really important to establish healthy baking habits in your family and for yourself as well. I grew up with a tradition of baking in my household, and I love baking. It's fun, it's creative, and you come up with something that you can eat at the end of it. That's like the perfect case scenario as far as I'm concerned. But that doesn't mean you should eat everything that has butter, sugar, and fat, because that's not going to help you reach your health goals. So you have to be somewhat creative in the kitchen, which is my specialty. It's what I love to do. And so I'll share with you a few specific baking substitutions that you can do in your own kitchen this holiday to feel healthier and happier about those treats that you do consume. A couple of things off the bat, I don't recommend using things like beans and avocados and God knows what inside of your baked goods, because at the end of the day, it needs to look and taste and kind of feel like a cookie. I don't want it to feel like some sort of science lab creation. And believe me, I love a science lab. I had a science lab when I was a young kid. We mixed some dangerous chemicals in that lab, but I don't want your baked goods to end up like something that could contaminate you and be toxic to you, or it tastes so gross that you don't even recognize it as food. So here are some of my baking substitutes, and if you'd like to see my full article, I will pop that in the comments section here, where you can have, oh my God, the ultimate guide for healthy baking substitutes. It took me forever to write that post, but I love it and it's amazing. And it's what I'm going to share with the folks who are coming to my house tomorrow for the healthy holiday baking party that I'm hosting at my house. If you want in on that, just let me know, because I do have one spot available for you. Okay, let's get to those healthy baking substitutes. First of all, butter. Yes, butter is what makes your baked good crummy and delicious and have that perfect crust on top. It's what makes your pies a little bit crisp. Butter tastes amazing, and many holiday recipes incorporate shortening or lard or whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, those are things that have trans fats and other things that we do not want to be putting into our bodies. So what you can do is replace butter and lard with coconut oil or even olive oil. It works very well, and it still allows you to enjoy yourself without feeling guilty about it. And I will share other recipes for you within my post, so go ahead and do that. Take a look at that post and you can see more about that. Now, another thing that people like to do is say, well, I'm going sugar-free and I got to worry about this, that, and the other. I got to worry about not eating sugar because sugar is bad for me, or sugar is the devil. Sugar is not the devil. But here's the interesting thing about sugar. The more you eat of it, the more you want of it, right? So sugar does have some addictive qualities, and especially when it comes to holiday treats, they want more, 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 more. 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of sugar, sugar dipped in sugar. That's just kind of the name of the game. Now, there are ways to enjoy your baked goods without adding so much additional sugar. And yes, I have found techniques that still allow you to add real sugar, but do not taste overly sweet and do not make you feel like you need 2 cups of water just to wash it away from your mouth. First of all, whenever you're trying a recipe, if it's a recipe you've tried before and you know what the finished product looks like, I would recommend that you reduce the amount of sugar that that recipe calls for. So for example, if you have a recipe that calls for 2 cups of sugar and you like the finished product, but you still want to cut back, then reduce it to 1.5 cups of sugar. Reducing it by 1/2 cup of sugar is not going to make a huge taste difference in the end product, but it will reduce the sugar. It also allows your body to slowly adjust to the reduced sugar without making it feel like it's a cracker instead of cookie because nobody wants to taste something that's not sweet when you expect it to be sweet. However, it is an easy way for you to slowly reduce the amount of sugar you use. I frequently choose recipes where I can play around with the ingredients, or I can reduce certain things that I don't want to have a lot of in my, in my baked goods. So that's a technique that you can use. Another thing you could do is replace sugar with fruit, like applesauce, dates, pureed sweet potatoes, mashed carrots, those sorts of things. They're naturally sweet and they will add that sweetness to your baked goods. Another thing you can do is add natural sugars. And by natural, I mean came from a tree, came from a hive, came from a plant, you name it. So, that means pure maple syrup, the real stuff that came from a tap from a maple tree, a hive, honey, raw honey if you go that route, or agave syrup or stevia, which come from a plant. I think agave comes from the same plant as tequila. I don't like the taste of agave myself. I don't like the taste of stevia, so I don't use them in my baked goods. And I have heard that stevia, if you bake with it, you have to be careful with your proportions, but just read the back of your label if that's something that you tend to use in your house. I prefer using honey when it comes to my baking, or I'll use half and half. So if a recipe calls for 1 cup of white sugar, I might use 1/2 cup of white sugar and then 1/4 cup of honey. Honey has a slightly different sweetness than regular sugar does, so again, you have to play around with those things to see what suits your taste and your family's taste. And let's talk about flour, because I know a lot of people are reducing their refined flour eating, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But have you tried other flours like whole grain flours? There's whole wheat. They even have a white whole wheat that doesn't change the look of your finished product. There are oat bran, rye, spelt, a bunch of ancient grain type flours. There are nut flours. And nut flours are not just almond flour. We now have hazelnut flour and walnut flour and coconut flour, all sorts of different flours. So if you're trying to reduce the amount of refined white flour you eat, there are plenty of options for you. Trying to replace white flour is a little bit of a taste test experiment. I have had utter failures when I tried to replace flour. So make sure to read the article I'm going to pop in the comments here, because it has more specific ways on which types of baked goods really benefit from replacing white flour with other things. And when you're first starting out, I highly encourage you not to completely substitute all of the white flour. Still keep a decent amount of white flour in there as you're transitioning to healthier goods. That way your family is more likely to eat them, your family is less likely to throw them straight to the trash, and you're more likely to adjust to the different taste or texture of your finished products. So those are my top tips for healthier baking. I have way more than that in this huge article that I promised you. It's called Bodacious Baking Without the Muffin Top. So I highly encourage you to go check that out. Again, I have one more spot for coming to my private party tomorrow, 12 to 2:30. It's at my house. You do have to let me know you're interested in coming. I'm not going to share my house address publicly out here. So please comment on this post if you want to come. There's a small fee of $25 to come, because I am paying for all the supplies and a decorative tin and printed book recipe you can take home with you. So do let me know if you're interested in that spot. But otherwise, these are my top baking healthy substitutes for you. These are tried and true out of my own kitchen that my kids have approved. So I'm not just talking out of, just randomly looking at Google and saying, well, that looks good, or that looks good, because some things did not work out for me. Coconut flour is not my thing. It's just not going to work out for me. I've tried it a couple of times. I've been around the block with it, and it's just not my thing. So everyone finds their own preferred substitutes. Take a look at my list here in the article, and you will see some of your favorite substitutes. So if you feel like it smells like Christmas, it could be because you're now baking healthier treats that make you feel happy and support your family's health. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon. This is Jen. Take care.